Good evening. I'm Tina Watkins, Assistant Director of Local Audit for the Office of the Washington State Auditor. I'm glad I could join you today, and I haven't had the pleasure or the privilege in the past, so it was great to be able to speak to all three of you, and the way I can do that is to give an open public meeting. So I'm going to be addressing my comments or my discussion to you today. When I do meetings, I like to be very open, and if you have questions, I would invite you to ask them. You don't have to, but if you'd like to, I can generally get back on track. Just for a little bit of background about the office, we are looking into state law, and to RCW 4309, if that's of interest, to be the auditor of all public accounts. So we audit both state and local. The history of the office is all on the local side. Which means that, and in general, all local governments are required to be audited at minimum every 3 years. So our office has devised a way to decide how often we audit different governments. And yours, I need to tell you, is a little bit on the smaller side. So we audit you a little less frequently and not in as much depth. And we do that through what's called an assessment process. So the scope does change based on different factors, which would be your size, which I mentioned, risk, and needs. For example, some clients need to have financial statement audits because let's say they need to go out for bonds in their bond rating agency or whoever they're lending. You might need that information. That's not something we do here. So, one benefit of having a smaller audit effort is time. Smaller the effort, the less time. And I need to let you know that we are not funded by the state. So how we pay for our audits or how they are funded is by direct billing our clients. All of that, right? I want to let you know that your last audit report that we have on file is for year end 12/31/2016. Okay? So every year we require, the state requires, that we file annual reports with our office. Okay? And this is also in part in the RCW. And these are due to our office about 120 days. Exactly 120 days after your end. So, end of May. 2017, I'll give you a little history for your district. In 2017, bills were filed on time. In 2018, so for your 12/31/2018, they were filed a little bit late, 99 days. For your 19, they were 496 days late. And your most recent year for your 2020 is not yet complete. We have started filing that, which I appreciate, but it is not yet complete, so we're waiting for completion. We have been reaching out to the district. I'm kind of reflecting back on some of the conversations we heard earlier, maybe regularly since early 2020. And those from various, and I've heard comments today, from various folks from our office, because lots of us have different roles within the office. But we're trying to help you as a district file your annual reports. We do try to be helpful. We understand that your work at the district isn't all about the financial numbers and the reports. So we try to give you as much assistance as we can.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Since all of our paperwork is all done on computer, and it goes into the county. So is there no way, I mean, this has to be, we have to do that on a regular basis, so we're current with the county. But is there no way that you get those records, from them?
So, I have a very long answer to that question, and I would want to speak to you about all the real particulars about it. But at the end of the day, we do get data from the county, and we do get data for our, what we term special purpose districts as well. So we can see the big stuff, and that the county has. But they are not your treasurer. I mean, they're your treasurer and your auditor, they process these things, but they only do it at your direction. So there's a lot of information that only happens because of the commissioner's authority, and they don't have any of that insight. So they pay bills basically because you tell them to, and they get money in on your behalf because it's through the property tax system. But let's say if you get money, and I'm not saying you do, but if an entity were to get money from an outside source in, that's not property taxes, that's what's called a local receipt, then someone, whoever received it, would have to take it to the county. And then that wouldn't be something they would need to tell us they have it, but they wouldn't be able to tell us that they should have had it. Does that make sense? They would know of.
They don't know all the little
They
details
don't have all
about
that information. So yes, they give us the framework and what they have, but it is the responsibility of the local government itself to file the annual reports with our office. And this, we can talk for a full day, and I'd be happy to do that. So we have been reaching out regularly. We have found communication challenging, I will say, and also inconsistent in our response to our requirements. We've reached out to others in our community, your community, to get friends in the county. You know, what are the size of the revenues? What are the expenditures, et cetera? And we've also reached out to, there's a lot of folks out there that provide assistance, like the Fire Association, the Fire Commission Association, the Fire Chiefs Association, et cetera. And we've also received inquiries from the public as well. People in the backbone of the government were really dependent on transparency, and so that's something that we very much believe in. Everything we do is open to the public, when it's appropriate to be open to the public when our work is finished. And we publish it all on our website. So we are now officially outside of the statutory requirements for our audits. As I mentioned, we're just past the 3-year mark, and we're working on the 4th year. So for us, it's really imperative that we work with you to get this audit completed. Plus the communication challenges that we've had, and we have seen some just red flags, meaning we haven't been able to get what we've asked for. We have now moved your audit from what was termed an assessment audit, which is smaller and easier, to what we call an accountability audit. And it is traditional, we do these a lot, but it's more robust and than the assessment audit. So I'm here today to establish clear communication rapport and inform you about anything that you might have questions on, answer those, establish a timeline with you for organization of your audit. And I want to assure you that we have luck. While I might not know how to fight fires, I very much know how to audit fire protection districts. There are almost 400 across the state. We have a lot of years experience in our office, and I promise I will introduce that into you in a moment. If you have a question today and I personally don't know the answer, or even later on I know that I can get them for you. So I brought you a packet of information, and what that is very typical information. There should not be any surprises necessarily in there, but let's walk through it.
You need to make sure that you get accurate contact information.
That would be great, yes. Okay, so I'm going to have Megan join me in just a second here, so I want to introduce her. Megan McFarland is an assistant audit manager, currently working with Team Olympia, and she is actually a long-term member of our Fort Orchard team, which just happens to be your region. So I thought we made a really lengthy history in audit and from the local area that she is going to be, while she is the assistant audit manager, she's going to serve as the auditor in charge of this engagement. And we're doing that just to make sure that from us we have a commitment of communication and timeliness and very experienced folks that can answer your questions. So what I brought for you today, on the right side of the packet is just a typical entrance conference document. And as we walk through it, briefly, it introduces our office, which is things I've already done. And I would like you to know that we plan on conducting an accountability audit for January 1, 2017 to December 31st of 2020. And now I'm going to let Megan talk to you about the different areas that we're planning to address in our audit. Is that okay? Great.
Nice to meet you. So, as Tina said, this accountability audit will cover January 1, 17th, December 31, 2020, so 4-year time period. That will get you guys back up with where you should be at this point in time. Based on planning procedures that we require, we do several trend analysis of your revenues and expenditures, and that's where we've been utilizing some of that information from Mason County that we were talking about. We review board minutes to identify what's going on in the community and in the district. And we identify risks that we want to address during the audit. So based on those planning procedures, we identified the list of areas on the bullet point on that front page, and I'll walk through each of those in a little more detail. So the first area we'll look at is accounts payable. As I mentioned, we obtained information from the county, we have the warrant registers, and so what we'll do is we'll go through and select expenditures from that, including both general disbursements, credit card activity, and employee reimbursements. I'll be submitting a request for support for those, and then you have each one of the transactions that are selected to ensure that they're properly supported, they're allowable for the state law, and they are properly approved. We'll also be selecting some payroll expenditures for testing. That's the next area. And with the payroll testing, we'll ensure that gross wages are supported. And also be looking at the calculations of those gross wages as well as benefits that are paid and other deductions, making sure everything is calculated correctly and supported. The third area we'll look at is compliance with employment contract terms. And this area is really focused on Chief Kelly's contract as one of the only employees during that time period. We'll be requesting a second contract if there is one in place from the time of her hire and current. And we'll be looking at making sure that the benefits that are received are paid in accordance with the contract. There is also a concern that was submitted to our office by a citizen, and the concern is related to whether or not some of the benefits were allowable. And so we'll look again in terms of contract to make sure that those benefits were allowable. The next area is annual report filing for timeliness and completeness. And Tina spoke to this a little bit in the introduction. And so again, this is just ensuring whether or not the district filed its annual financial reports timely, and if the information that was filed is complete. Because we want to make sure that the information that the board has and is using to make decisions is complete, so that you can make proper decisions for the district going forward. The next area is open public meetings, and this is covering the documentation of minutes, executive sessions, and special meetings. And so as I mentioned, we did review some minutes prior to this meeting, but we'll be requesting additional minutes that we don't have currently. And we'll be reviewing those minutes to make sure that they include the documentation that's required to show that the district is in compliance with certain RCWs as well as the Open Public Records laws. The next area is cash receiving. This may primarily just be an inquiry. We're trying to make sure that we've identified all the services that are provided by the district, whether or not it's EMS services, ALS or BLS transport services, And then depending on the information gathered, we may perform more detailed testing in that area. And then the last area is financial condition. This area is common for all of our local governments. We look at it across the state. We perform various financial trends and ratios, and we're just looking for risk indicators that to determine if there may be a declining financial condition. Any questions from the board?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty standard accountability audit for us as far as the areas that we're looking at.
Okay, good. So then, all right, so in your packet, and I'm not going to walk you through it, I'm going to give you some time to read it, is an engagement letter, which is also standard for the audit process. So I want you to take a look at it, and then we do have one that doesn't say draft on it. I would like you to sign it, but I will let you read it first. But it outlines the responsibilities of our office and what our commitments to you are. And it also kind of does the same for you. So we have a playing field that we both know and it does also outline the cost of the audit, which I am going to share with you now. It is way more expensive than the cost of an assessment audit. Unfortunately, because our office is not funded by the state, the time that we spent trying to gather information, it comes at a cost because I have to have somebody do that. And when we don't get responses back quickly, it does add up. And if I were to not charge it, then another client would have to go into our overhead and basically be paid by another district or client across the state. So it is unfortunate, and I will tell you, even though we're doing an assessment, or excuse me, an accountability audit this year, our hope is that at the end, when we're all back on track, that we can go back to the normal assessment process, which would be much less expensive for the district. At the conclusion of our audit, I want to share with you what the results might look like. So, we're a reporting agency, right? We don't, it's the power of the pen. So we're going to, I promise you that I will share with you everything that we find. And there's 3 levels of reporting. So there are, the lowest level of reporting is an exit recommendation. And these are really things that we might like into housekeeping. I see it, it's not really a big deal, but I may as well tell you because maybe in the future it could grow or you'd want to know anyway. So those things we communicate directly. And they're usually pretty low level. The next level of reporting up is called a management letter. It's not so significant that it needs to be included in your final written report, but we want to make sure that the board in its entirety has an opportunity to see it. So it's addressed to the board, and we make sure that we got a copy of that letter so that you can know what it was that we found during the audit. We do reference them in our reports, and we share them with you so that you're very familiar. If it's more significant, it will actually be included in the body of our report, and those are called findings. Again, we're very open and letting you know once we know what the reporting level will be. We share it with you, and all findings have an opportunity for the government to respond in writing in the finding, if there is to be a finding. So, perspective, right? Sometimes things happen, it rises to the level of a finding, because we're very consistent across entity types, across the state. Like the fire district here, something happens, they'll get the same reporting level as one on each side of the state. We're very conscientious of that. But maybe there was a reason it happened, and we want to make sure that you, the board, has an opportunity to write that reason in the same report so that it's all available to the public who eventually read that report. So, those are the 3 levels of reporting, and you can expect from us. I'm on the page. Other important information, we are very committed to protecting any confidential data or sensitive information. So we ask that you only send us things that we ask for. And if there's confidential information in there, like you can't extract it, like it's combined, just let us know so that we can be extra careful with that documentation. The cost of the audit is also included in this handout. It will not be over that amount, and of course I hope to come under. But again, no surprises. I would never go over that amount without letting you know, and there would be very good reason for that. But at this point, that is my expectation. We plan to communicate with Chief Kelly for our requests and other information throughout the audit. We plan to hold weekly status meetings to let the chief know where we're at, what we're still waiting on. If we have any concerns, we will let them know. And that keeps the audit moving from our perspective. If we have a weekly meeting, we keep each other accountable. It seems to work really well. If for some reason that's not available to us, we would like one of the commissioners to step into that role, and I will let you all decide how to handle that. So at the end of the audit, if there is something in your report that maybe you just feel like we didn't listen or haven't come to the correct conclusion, I would invite you to let us know that you disagree, and we will make sure that you are directed to the person above me to have a conversation about that. In fact, my supervisor can hand out for you, just so it's for communication.
So indirect communication will be you, or
Megan is going to be your auditor in charge, so she is going to be the one to do the day-to-day work. Megan and I are going to work very closely now as you're doing all of the work, and so either one of us, that is fine, but Megan will be readily available to you.
So the weekly status meeting for housing.
And you have my card inside the folder.
So here's some other notifications about loss recordings and all of our documents, and letting you know who audits the auditor, because of course that happens. And at the end of the audit, you'll also get audit surveys, so if you have concerns with how we conducted ourselves, or you appreciated it, and you're welcome to communicate with our elected state auditor, Pat McCarthy, as well, through that service. We also have folks that support all of our clients with technical matters, reporting matters, annual filing. Those folks are available to you at no additional cost and all year round, and you can always reach out to us as well. But we want to provide you with services. And then you have our contact information here at the bottom of the page, all the way to the back page. I have one more item here to go, but do you have any questions so far? Decided two last items, if it's all right. Okay, so in your packet is a list of initial questions. It is a request for information. We did provide Chief Kelly with a packet, and that is our initial data request. So if we could get started on those things, that would get us moving in a really good
so
direction.
we have a list of what you're missing, right?
Right, at least to help us get started there. So some of it is just questions, trying to gather information, because we can find it online, because we haven't done this magnitude of an audit before, this type of an audit before. And then there is some initial requests for records and stuff. And I'll be providing, I'll be submitting additional requests, like I said, for selected expenditures.
Yeah, and there's things we don't know about you that we want to know about you. So exactly. It makes a difference whether you do that or not, right?
Right.
So that's where I was.
Yeah, financial is different.
Very good, right. Makes sense too. Okay, so that that'll get us started. Then there's one other housekeeping item. So we have, there was a new law put into place this last legislative session, and as of July 1st of this year, we are required to have a data sharing agreement in place, meaning we ask you for data, you give us data, and just have the terms of how we exchange the data written down. So it is a document that Congress will require us to have in place. I have a copy for you, and hopes that you will be able to sign it. I want to give you time to read it before you sign it, so I will leave it with you, and if you could take a look at it and send it back to me, that would be great. So,
Does the district have the ability to scan and send signed documents?
I'm sure.
you can,
Or mail?
Yeah, we can scan.
so the book there, and I do want you to take the time to read it. And if you have any questions, because they're a little technical now, I've had to learn a lot about data sharing agreements. I'm happy to answer any of those questions at any time. So that's just a yeah, so we'll have the weekly meetings, you'll know when the audit is concluding, and then we will schedule an exit conference, and someone spoke earlier, if typically at the end of an audit, we do meet with a member of the governing body or less than a quorum, but we will follow the lead of the government, however they'd like us to communicate to them. So I will leave that in your hands to let us know what your preference is as we get closer to the end of the engagement. But we will be very committed throughout the process, I promise you. Hopefully I didn't wear out all my 30 minutes.
No, you're good, you're good. We certainly appreciate it.
Any questions for me or concerns about the gate?
No, I think it's actually a good thing.
Okay.
Then you get, then we start fresh.
We do.
Everybody knows where you're at.
And it's very transparent.
Community knows where we're at.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think it's good.
Okay. We have our card. If you need anything, questions, let us know. You're happy.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here.
Of course.